welcome to downtown Hot Springs. Jason Hudy here with the July 2012 Magical E-Monthly. For those of you who were with us for the last month's edition, you know that we are down in Hot Springs, Arkansas, performing this summer at Magic Springs Water and Theme Park. Last month, we took you on a tour of the park, and this month, we are here in downtown Hot Springs. And this area is a real cool resort tourist destination. You can see across the street one of the duck tours, and you can actually get aboard the duck. It's an old World War II vehicle, and take a tour of the town, and then that vehicle actually goes right into the water and turns into a boat. And it just goes out through the water, and you take a tour of the nearby lake as well. So across the street, there's all sorts of tourist attractions, such as the Wax Museum, the Gangster Museum, all about the gangsters down here in Hot Springs. But right now, I want to share with you some more of what the water is actually like, the Hot Springs water. Let's go take a look at that. And here we are at the actual park area of Hot Springs, and behind me, you can see one of the natural hot springs freely flowing. So here's where the water comes from. Scientists can date this water, carbon dated back 4,000 years. And what they believe is that the water that's gushing today actually started as rainfall. And because of the area, just the natural geographic rock formations and fault lines of the area, the water seeps underground to an area where it's closer to the Earth's core, where it gets naturally heated. And then there's fault lines down there that bring the water back up over 4,000 years. To areas like this where it will flow naturally. And this water behind me is actually 143 degrees. I know it doesn't look like that, but I can actually feel the heat coming off. And if I try to stick my hand in here, it can only last a second or two because it's just so hot, 143 degrees. But Indians, and then later on in the 1500s and 1600s, European settlers, when they came to this area, obviously back in that time, having a source of hot water that they didn't have to heat up themselves was a major plus. And so that's why this area started to become popular. And then in the early 1900s and late 1800s, the bathhouses started to pop up, which right now we're going to take you over to Bathhouse Row and show you what that's all about. And here we are on Bathhouse Row. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, companies began to build the bathhouses where the general public could come and bathe in the hot waters of Hot Springs. And so behind us you can see a couple of them, and also down this way as well. There go some motorcycles. There are currently 8 bathhouses standing, and 2 of them are in operation. The Clawpaw behind us and the Buckstaff down the road. And there goes the duck tour. And here we are in front of the Buckstaff Baths, one of the 2 operational bathhouses. And 2 weeks ago, we went inside to take a bath. And it's basically laid out the same way it was in the early 1900s, and it uses the actual thermal water of Hot Springs. So you go inside, and it's like a jacuzzi-style bath, and then there's something called a sitz bath, where you actually sit down in it, and it's just for your back. And then there's a natural spa area, and then a hot pack station, and then a needle shower, where it's like 100 different shower needles that all spray at you as it rotates. And it was a very interesting experience taking a bath, and afterwards you leave definitely feeling refreshed and relaxed after your bath in the natural hot springs. So Hot Springs hit its peak in the 1940s, actually just after World War II. This was a big station where the troops would come back from overseas, and they were actually all given a hot bath. And in 1945 and 46, the year after World War II, the bathhouses actually administered over 1 million baths. And then in the 50s and the 60s, as medicine started to get more advanced, people didn't have a need for these so-called healing powers of the hot water, and Hot Springs, the bathhouses, began to diminish. So there are only 2 left by the 80s. But then the tourist attractions started to take over, and that's what you find a lot of throughout the town now, is all the touristy stuff. But there is still one more part I want to share with you. It's my favorite part of the city, and it shows what a big dork I am. And we're going to take you over to my favorite part of Hot Springs right now. So throughout the town, there are hot spring water fountains that the city has set up, and anyone who comes through can fill up a water jug for free. In fact, Amber's going to fill up right now. Now, this water is from the natural hot springs. They've actually cooled it from the 143 degrees down to about 90 degrees, and people can just come on down and fill up any time. Now, because this water has made the long trip underground and everything, And we just actually go in and just drink this water at 90 degrees just like this. Because of the trip it's made underground, it is the most pure water that I've ever drank before. It just tastes so good and so pure. And so that's my favorite part. We'll come down a couple of times a week with 2-liter bottles and fill it up and then drink the water. And it's, I think I like the myth and the legend of it more than the actual healing powers that the water has. But the myth and the legend and the whole story of it, for me, is the neatest part of the city. So that's about it. Next month we will come to you live from the actual park. You'll actually get to see a little of my show because we are actually working down here. But in the meantime, if you need a magic show for fall or winter, feel free to call, email, or visit the Facebook fan page. We'll talk to you next month.